Tracy Dean is suggesting a large tree house on the side. I'm suggesting that these submissions, group submissions, decide to have a working party before to them to be part of their area. Right. No further comments there. You have a written submission from the Reeds and their comment, again talking traffic, talking parking, talking trees and what could take place. Again a submission and then a plan at the back which has some of the similarities to some of our options and those. Are there any comments on those?
To some extent, I would like to commend all those people for the input. Obviously, this whole process has got people thinking, so I appreciate all the various angles that we have been presented with.
I said we'd go through your option papers. The option papers are there in which, unless there is any great desire to go through those as written out there, rather than look at the important part in terms of the summaries that come round, and as we see, they have been rated up against our priorities. Councillor Van Rooyen.
I have gone carefully through all these various options, and I have put a percentage on the replies that have given 1, 2 and 3 as replies. So 1 is not at all, 10 being perfect, and every response has been 50% or more in category 1, 2 and 3. That's all I want to say on that.
Is there anything you wish to raise out of these? I think those options reinforce the things that we have heard. People were concerned about parking, people were concerned about traffic flow, people were concerned about visibility, people were concerned about why do it. They were the concerns as I have gone through. Would you agree that these are the sort of the concerns that if we go ahead or decide what to do, that we take to the working parties that they need to be able to address those issues there? Are there any other issues that people think out of all of these as I have gone through them and sort of say, hey, this is what they are? I guess the other one is the need for that recreational space, which unfortunately we get out and call a playground, and everybody thought of swings and roundabouts and that, which we shouldn't have done. We should have talked about that as recreational space with a wow factor. Now they're the sort of 5 things that these all pick up on. Councillor?
The only other issue I had noted was just the worry about the recreation space being close to the highway, and we talked about fencing it, but that raised a question in my head of who's going to keep the gate closed if it's busy.
Well, I think that's, they were just the 5 things, how they were handled, and we say, if the working party paid, how do you handle this sort of in there? Were they the 5 that went, yeah, Mr. Potts?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and look, I agree totally with you, 5. I think the other point that's worth making is, and it's a very difficult one, we wanted to make sure we engage the community on this and the businesses, and consultation has been quite considered, I guess, and quite robust. Where we got ourselves into some strife a little bit, I guess, is that we went out for a location plan. So this is roughly where we believe things should sit. You always get dragged into the detailed conversation, and that's perhaps reduced some of the issues. So just wanted to make the point, I guess, that we really, this first stage is about location rather than the detail as well. I shall come later.
Now going to ask our consultants sitting out there, the 3 of you, well, I can't say the three wise men, one wise woman and a couple of others. Your comments, have you any comments having sat through and listened and read and seen this mystery? You've seen all of these, how people responded to the options, and you've heard today. Have you any comments to make?
I have. It's been really helpful to listen to people.
Somebody like to close that back door, please, that other door.
Thank you. It says shout quite so much. It's always really helpful to hear people's thoughts and views on traffic and parking. They are things that really do tend to get people hot bothered. I think the views around keeping the traffic flow through Leith Place pretty much as is has merit, but it needs consideration of how it interacts with Bridge Street and Swansea Street. But that's a matter of detail rather than a fundamental. I think also hearing from McDonald's how important keeping Swansea Street open for all traffic movements is also quite interesting. Once again, it's a matter of detail, I think, rather than necessarily a fundamental principle. That is going to take some liaison with NZTA, and it's going to take some thought about how that would be controlled as well, because you have an issue of proximity between how you get into Leith Place, out of Rosman Street, in and out of the drive-through and State Highway. So it's going to take a lot of careful thought, but it's, I think it's doable. I think there's certainly quite a lot of merit in what's been put forward by people today.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think it's been interesting coming to after reading the material and then coming here and hearing people speak about it. And this afternoon, probably different type of people submitting. And I want to thank the Business Association for their response and what they put forward. Because it seems to be a desire for things to happen around certain things, like toilets obviously, is one big thing that's come out this afternoon, is a real desire, whether it be upgrading the view, or whatever, something has to be done there. But I think there's a state of the Business Association, there is a desire to see something happen, which I think is good, and picking up on something we talked about very early on, the front window to Tokoroa, is that Leith Place area, and it's how you actually draw people in that. So, hearing from people.
Yeah, I think the importance, it's been really interesting hearing all the comments and going through all the feedback, but the importance of parking and access really comes through time again, and the importance of toilets that I think the importance of and traction maybe gets a little buried within some of those discussions, but that's something that we always try to keep in mind. And just echoing earlier comments about perhaps the misuse of language around playground, we actually say playscape, but I think what the Business Association put forward with recreation space is probably more suitable to be helpful. But that space can take any number of forms, and it can be highly visible and can satisfy all the requirements without adding any swings. No slides, no swings.
Mrs. Forbes, Mr. Stevens, you've sat through this, been an interesting experience for you, I hope.
It has. It's interesting, getting people working with me now, seem to be working with me, having to deal with such vast, opinions and, submissions from the public, and then trying to, work with council, and I see the council and it is a difficult job, it has already shown to be a difficult job, to try and get something that is accepted by most. I think from listening to Ryan, it's shocking that it's something right, it's been most is about what people see. It's not so much about what's in there, it's about what people see. And it's got to be like, wow.
We're not asking you to make a decision. No one made a decision where we go yet. But in terms of the process, Karen, interesting process, as you've heard, a wide range.
Very interesting process. I think one of the things that has stood out to me is that there's a general consensus on one side of the fence that maybe we don't need to spend all this money. The other side of the fence is from retailers and business people's point of view, whereby it's been like this for such a long time. We need something fresh, we need it now. The Hamilton-Cambridge bypasses, the Taupo bypass, we need to be attractive to people passing through town. We also need to make it right for the people of the South Waikato. We're not just talking about the people of Tokoroa here, we're talking about the people of the South Waikato. Tokoroa, Atauri, Tigara have to work in combination to make this work. If it means, getting people stopping here as opposed to stopping in town or Tigara, that's great for Tokoroa. But we all have to be working together in a way. One of the main things that is of concern to quite a few people that I've spoken to is the ease of access and exit in and out of Tokoroa. Really, really important that we have to make it easy for people to stop and get back out on the road. I think the toilets is a big thing, not only for the locals but for passing people. But I think the biggest thing to take is, we've been talking about this for such a long time, and I think it really needs to start happening. We need to be moving forward.
Well, good, and as we go through some of the things I think on the agenda, we'll be throwing a traffic engineer, into the mix to take place. Mr. Hobbs, would you like to go through and sort of say, how have we got to where we are so far?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Then can you just put that, and I apologise again, Leith Place project, we've talked terminology, it is really a CBD upgrade, it's not just Leith Place, so I apologise for that. Thanks, Ben. So just really wanted to run through quickly, so roughly where we got to and where we're at. So to date, we've had a steering committee in place. That consisted of all the people along the top line there, so the councillors, myself and Mr. Smith. Project manager facilitator was Julie Christensen, working in here. Julie's moved on from council, but we are maintaining her services to a degree to make sure we get some continuity around this project. I think Sarah Flagel will probably come get more involved. Ben, have I got that correct? Yeah, thank you. Then obviously Judith, Nick and Peter have been heavily involved in the process right from pretty much the start, which was, 12 to 18 months ago, I guess we kicked this off, or thereabouts, or probably earlier than that in fact. And I just want to identify, if I may, because there's been some comment in some of the submissions around the process of appointing Bosley's as the lead designer for this project. Council did go out, it was well before my time, it did go out to the greater community, the business community, and said, hey, we have this project in place with mine, and we want proposals of expressions of interest to get involved. And so tenders were called. We got various, I think it was 4 or 5 architects in the end that were considered. It was cut down to 3, and in the end, Bosley's were awarded the contract. So it certainly wasn't a case of just going out and finding the first architect we could find. Bosley's then brought Rates and Associates in. Rates are urban designers of some fantastic work. So I think we're very lucky to have those individuals on. And then again, I want to thank particularly Karen, Larry and John for your involvement in this project. Once the working committee's constituted, we'll do away with the steering group, bring the working party and get your input, I think is fantastic. The next slide, just want to identify the vision for this project, and Mr. Bryant identified earlier on, we can't do this as a one-off. It's not a one-off, throw some money at something, build something and then walk away from it. It's really important we keep developing and building, because the reality is we are looking at a full opportunity for the CBD of Tokoroa. It's not just about Leith Place, it's about the entire CBD and encouraging more and more business into there. It's also about trying to improve Tokoroa as a livable town as well, making sure people want to bring their businesses here, bring their families here, have all those amenities that are available to them.